All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Get Unblocked. My name is Taiwo, and I'm honored to be your host for today. Get Unblocked is a webinar series, and last week we had a wonderful time connecting with Oluwaseun Onabanjo, a cloud solutions architect at Microsoft, where she spoke to us and gave really valuable insights about how to pivot into tech and the best options, the best decisions to make the journey even shorter. But today is even going to be more explosive because we have someone speaking with us today who is even going to be talking to us about the mindset or the perspective of the Canadian hiring manager and how to get the best result when it comes to interviewing here in Canada. However, before I introduce our speaker for today, I just want to quickly talk to you about why we have Get Unblocked. Now, Get Unblocked is a project by NextMaven where we working towards enlightening and inspiring the next generation of technology experts. And we do this by amplifying success stories to propagate a strong belief that it is possible to build a thriving career in tech. But not just the possibility, also importantly is how to achieve this. And that's why we have today, we're speaking with mentors, we're speaking with people who are already thriving in a career, giving you insights into what you can do to be able to replicate some level of success. Now, this webinar series is a 6-day or 6-weekend event. We started last week, so today is the second. If you missed last week, you have the opportunity to go to our website, getunblocked.nextmaven.ca, and catch up on last week's episode. You can watch that session. Now, after today, there's going to be even 4 more episodes, so 4 more weekends to go. So make sure you save the date so you don't miss out on any of them. All right. And of course, today we are honored to have a speaker whose journey embodies the very spirit of our event. For many years, the ideas of pivoting into tech can feel daunting, but our next guest, Bunmi Fipelumi, shows it's not only possible, it's a path to incredible success. Now, just 5 years into an enviable banking career, Bunmi was already a branch manager at Access Bank, leading teams and delivering exceptional customer experience where she saw a different future for herself. And she took a courageous step, leaving her banking job to take on an internship at a tech startup in Lagos, all while studying to become a certified business analyst. And this bold transition set the stage for a remarkable expertise today. Bunmi isn't just a tech professional, she's a certified master of her craft. She holds the coveted CBAP, which is the gold standard for her field, along with 6 Sigma Black Belt and a Scrum Master certification. She applies this unique combination of skills in her current role as a business systems analyst at TELUS, where she helps leverage technology to solve complex problems and improve lives. Beyond her corporate role, Bunmi is a partner and a mentor at Verisort, where she helps underrepresented professionals navigate their own career changes. She's also a successful business owner, a busy wife, and a twin mom. Today, she's here to offer a unique perspective on what Canadian hiring managers and recruiters are really looking for. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to the incredible Bunmi Fipelumi.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I believe that, there is no better person to really describe your journey more than you yourself. So could you just, tell us a bit about, just walk us through your career journey, how you were able to break into tech. Some people say breaking as if, as if you're a thief, but let's just follow that trend. Some people, so how are you able to break into tech and of course tech in Canada?
Thank you, Taiwo. Just like you said, you gave a very, very detailed information about my break into tech. So it all started where I worked in the bank and it was okay as at then, right? The first year, second year, third year, fourth year, and then the fifth year. And then I think there was a moment where I kept asking myself, is this all there is to me? Can I achieve so much more in my career? Can I get a higher level of fulfillment that I'm currently getting right now? So all those questions started building up in my spirit. And then there'll be nights where I would not be able to sleep. I kept asking myself, there has to be more than just working in the bank, than just counting cash, than just attending to customers. So that kind of started a pursuit in my career journey where I started researching, I started talking to people, I went on YouTube, I went on Udemy. I still wasn't finding what I was looking for. So I think around COVID, that was in 2020, I was talking to one of my friends who had moved to Canada around, I think a year before then, 2019. And we got talking and I asked her, what are you currently doing? And a little bit background story. She was also working in the bank. She resigned. And then she told me, oh, Bunmi, I'm now a business analyst. I work in a financial institution. And I'm like, business analyst? What does that mean? And then she told me that, Bunmi, it's practically the same thing as what we're doing in the bank. But instead of focusing on just talking to people, understanding their problems, preferring solutions, you actually work on real life software applications. So that got me thinking. And then went on Google, I started researching, I was not sleeping. I was excited, right? I was excited because a lot of skills that I was currently, or a lot of my duties as as a banker was easily transferable as a business analyst. So that was the first thing that caught my attention, right? So I um started reading about CBAP, started checking about the body, and then fast forward to a couple of months, I said, you know what? I'm done with working as a banker. I have to resign. And then I remember one of my managers did, she called me, she was upset because I didn't tell anybody I was going to resign. And then she saw my resignation letter. She was upset. She was like, "Me, do you know what the future holds? At least do this before you resign or get a job before you resign." And I'm like, I don't want to keep working. I just want to focus on moving on to the next level in my career. So I resigned and then I kept reading. I kept reading the Babok. Babok is like the Bible for business analysis. I was understanding the theoretical aspects, watching videos, and I saw an internship vacancy in a startup company in Nigeria, in Lagos. And then I applied. And because of the passion I had to really land that role or land the business analysis career, I didn't look at it as an internship role, right? I took it as a role that would be giving me millions of naira. Right. I was not focused on the financial returns. I was focused on actually getting or gaining value, gaining more experience and knowledge. So I did the interview. I was onboarded. I got the role. They were not paying me. In fact, if I should say what they were paying me was nothing compared to what I was earning as a branch manager, right? And I started. When I started the role, I didn't go as I'm just starting my career. And I will talk about this later when we're talking about a lot of other things. So when you're transitioning into a new career, you already have some experience. So bring those transferable skills into the tech or into the new career you're transitioning into. So I didn't go as a newbie, even though in tech I was a newbie. I carried all my years of experience in the bank, my communication skills, my stakeholder management, my working under pressure, my solving problem skills. I carried all of that into the internship program. And without any doubt, on that couple of months or weeks, I was standing out already, right? So that kind of gave me the experience I needed as a business analyst in a startup Nigeria. So fast forward to 2 years later, or about 1 year plus, we moved to Canada. And then I was asking myself, like, okay, I have the practical, I have a little bit of practical experience. I worked on a solution in Nigeria, but this is Canada. How do I really integrate myself into the Canadian workforce? So I took another training. I paid for a mentorship training just to understand the Canadian culture. And that kind of helped me to really um, silence my fears and let me know that what I learned in Nigeria is similar to what is being done in Canada. The culture might be a little different, the language might be a little bit different, but it's still the same business analysis concept. So that really helped me. And then that gave me like a basis to get people, networking, know people in the industry here in Canada, have mentors, and all of that. So after a couple of months of searching and all of that, I was able to land my first job without any hassle. And I hope that did justice into how I broke into tech in Canada.
Wow, that must have been quite a journey. And of course, just laying emphasis on a couple of important points you mentioned there in terms of first understanding what you want in life. Okay.
Yes.
And that is a point we all need to come to, in terms of what decisions do I need to make about my career. you know, is
Yes.
this trajectory going to land me to, it's going to take me to what I really want, or do I need to make a change right now? And I'll tell you, there is no better time to make a change than now, right?
Absolutely.
And of course, you emphasize, the being able to, uh, have a right mindset, especially towards where you are coming from, a managerial position, you are leading teams, and now you have to go for an internship position, but you are looking at it as it's not just for now. It's not for today.
Yep.
It's not
Yep.
about what I'm earning. It's
Yep.
about where it's going to take me to, where this experience, where this exposure is
Yep.
what is going to add to me, and essentially give me a platform to launch my new career. And of
Yep.
course, definitely you're reaping the reward now. You're earning even much more than you used to earn in a bank. Nothing
Yeah.
comparable, right? So that's
Yeah.
a really fantastic journey, and congratulations on making it. But then looking back at your career so far, what are the turning points that really helped you? Of course, we already mentioned in terms of, how you went about making your decision. What are the things that really stood out for you that helped you also they give you an edge, and of course, brought growth to your career? Of course, you mentioned earlier in terms of how you're able to harness your transferable skills, into your tech career. But can you take it up on that and just expatiate on that?
Okay. Your question is how was I able to stand out and grow? I believe that what helped me transitioning and actually standing out in my career so far is my transferable skills. Right. And taking off from where I stopped, working in the bank, there was a lot of pressure, there was a lot of conflict management, there was a lot of problem solving, there was a lot of stakeholder management, there was a lot of communication, being able to communicate the right things to people, to stakeholders, right? Because a lot of time people come to you or customers come to you with a problem. But the problem is actually not a problem, but a symptom of a deeper problem. So being able to ask the right questions, all that skills where I learned 80% of those skills that now help me as a business analyst was in banking, right? And another thing that helped me stand out is because I had a vision in mind. I had the end goal in mind. What do I want to achieve? My vision is actually to become a leader in business analysis field in Canada. So everything I used to do, whether it was in Nigeria, where I was doing the internship, or here in Canada, where I was still taking some training. What was in my head 24/7, how to become an industry leader in this field, right? Also being able to change my mindset, being passionate about the role. I speak to some business analysts or some aspiring business analysts today, and I don't really feel the passion from them. And if you're not passionate about the role you want to get, hiring managers, even recruiters can sense that from you. It's one thing for you to be able to read the CBAP, to read the PMP, to read a lot of books, right? Cram it and then pour it out. But there is a distinction between someone who is passionate about what he wants to do, even though you don't have a job right now, and someone who is not. So a combination of all of that, I believe, has helped me to stand out in the field and help me grow, because there's no one I'm talking to about business analysis field that is not smiling back at me. I'm passionate about the role. I'm passionate about the career. So I hope this answers your question a little bit.
Absolutely. I can feel the passion resonates across as you're speaking as well. And the truth is, you know, there's always going to be that remarkable difference between someone who's doing something for the sake of it, you
Yeah.
know, and someone who's really invested in it, someone whose core desire is poured into that particular project. Is going to be very different in terms of the results they get, in terms of how they approach these things, in terms of how they speak to it, in terms of how much time they devote to it. And definitely that is something that every one of us need to really reflect on. But then if you're going to start your tech journey today, what would you do differently to be able to move faster?
What would I do differently? I would confidently invest more into mentorship. Like, mentorship has a way of just helping you avoid the mistakes of others, right? I have a lot of people reach out to me on LinkedIn to say, hey, I'm impressed by your journey. I'm impressed by your posts. You have practical knowledge, this and that. And I would really love to walk in your shoes. I would really love to follow the same pattern. And I tell them, oh, I have a mentorship class. Can you go on and register? And people just zoom out. So people want to get the same level of results without really putting so much effort. And you can't really go far with that. You can go far, but you will not go far at a very high pace. So imagine a group of 10 people. Five, the first five said have a mentor that has a have a mentor that is a leader in his field. This is necessarily not excluded to business analysis. It could be cybersecurity, it could be project management. You have someone that has 15 years experience in the field as your mentor, and you want to apply for a job, and you go to that mentor and say, I have this job that I want to apply for. Because of the experience of your mentor, the person will be able to guide you. Do this, don't do that, don't just apply. Like look for referrals, do this, tailor your resume, right? Your resume is not good enough. But imagine the other set of five people who have no mentors. They just keep applying to 100 applications every day and waiting for the right time they will be called. So what I would do differently if I was starting my career today as a business analyst is to get industry leaders in business analysis. I will go to maybe CIBA president in Nigeria when I was starting in Nigeria, or when I landed in Canada, I will look for the president or in Ontario that is this IIBA chapter and get in close connection with the person, because there's no way I would waste time or effort, even if it requires me pain. I don't mind paying. And that's one thing that also helped me in my journey. I'm able to put the required resources, time, finances, effort to get to what I need to get. So that's one thing I would do differently. Get a mentor, get a mentor, get a mentor. It helps makes the journey easier for you.
Absolutely. And that's something I always tell people, right? The best performers in every field in life are coaches and mentors. You
Yeah.
look at, for those of you that follow football, look at Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo. These are the top, they call them greatest footballers of all time. And they have coaches for every phase of their every aspect of their life. They have mental health coaches, they have fitness coaches, they have nutrition coaches, they have football coaches, they have coaches for everything. So, and that is what distincts that's been very integral to their success. So, just like you mentioned, with a coach, with a mentor, you'll be able to avoid trials and error. You'll be able to move faster. You'll be able to, you know, do the right thing and get the right results. And that is really, really important. Now, we'll come back to mentorship in a bit, but let's look at where we are today, because like you said, you did business analysis, back in Nigeria, and then you came into Canada. But it seems that, and this is just beyond business analysis now, a lot of newcomers, even with strong international experience from Nigeria, from UK, from all over the place, they struggle to land roles in Canada. Why is that so?
I think the first step, I think there are two sides to this. The first is the resume part, and then the second is the interview part. So I will start with the resume part. A lot of times when international or when immigrants enter into Canada, they don't tailor their resume to respond to the requirements of the Canadian job description. Take, for example, when I say I work in Access Bank, imagine myself talking to putting on my resume that I work in Access Bank. I solved a lot of problems. Nobody here knows what Access Bank is. Nobody here understands, oh, Access Bank is one of the biggest banks in Nigeria or even Africa. So not being able to translate the great skills that you have in Nigeria or internationally into what is required in the Canadian workforce is a major issue, right? Imagine myself turning that resume point into saying, oh, I worked in one of the largest bank in Africa, which the customer base was around 3 million. That kind of gives a perspective to where I've worked. That kind of gives a perspective to how much I've handled in the past, even though it's not in Canada, right? And talking to the resume part is even before I go to the resume part, another major issue I've seen is newcomers don't know how to network. We just don't know how to, right? I talk to a lot of people, and then people tell me, oh, so how do I reach out to people on LinkedIn? How do I do this? How do I even have a good LinkedIn profile? And I keep asking, so if you reach out to someone today, what's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is for you to get a no or to get a no response, but you keep trying. So your resume, your inability to network, your inability to prepare properly for interviews, these are major red flags that kind of hinder people or newcomers from landing roles in Canada, even though they have perfect experience back home or wherever they're coming from.
Right. So just to make sure that I go what you're saying,
Mm.
The key problem is that although we have international experience, we've done incredible things in the past life,
Yeah.
from where we're coming from. We're able to translate all of that, be able to communicate all of that, be it in our resume
Yes.
or during the interviews. We're able to
Yes.
communicate all of that value that we bring, all the
Yes.
experiences we've had. We're able
Yes.
to communicate it to a relatable instance to
Yes.
the average Canadian employer. That's really insightful, right?
Yeah.
So, given the example you just gave us, Access Bank is one of the largest banks in Africa, right?
Mhm.
And then if I mention it in this part of the world, nobody has heard about it before, right?
Exactly.
So it's really important to be able to give that idea in terms of Access Bank has a customer base of about 40 million. That
Yeah.
is larger than Canada,
Exactly.
right? So if you're saying that I built a solution for 40 million customers, that is impressive. That is enough to make any employer really stop.
Yeah.
And that's really incredible. But in terms of in the next question, what are, personally to you, what are the specific challenges that you faced as an international professional when applying to jobs? Of course, maybe you touched on networking. What are the other the other problems you had to face?
Um, okay, so one of the specific challenges I faced was, let's say, silencing the noise. Silencing the noise. There's this word that is going around when you come to Canada that you have to start from the lowest, right? And I think, or you have to start from a survival job. That is a choice. It's not a requirement. You don't have to start from the bottom, right? You can um you can choose to start from, be it business analysis, be it PMP, be it QA, whatever you want to start from. You can start from, or you can even progress in your career. So one challenge that I faced when I came to Canada was actually silencing that noise and choosing the career path I want to go with, right? Another challenge I faced was, I mentioned earlier, being able to translate your value into the Canadian work life requirements. I had that. So a lot of things I'm talking about now is based off of what has happened to me as an individual, right? I had to learn through mentorship that even though your resume is good, even though you have a lot of value you can bring to an organization, but being able to translate that into a Canadian experience or value is very, very vital. So I think those are the two major challenges that I faced. And lastly, I remember now, another challenge I faced was majorly internally, changing my mindset. Because there's something that has to do with you coming from Nigeria and you landing in Canada, and you meet people from diverse culture or diverse backgrounds. There's a mindset of, not a mindset now, yeah, it's a mindset, imposter syndrome of you not being good enough. But as soon as I was able to overcome that mindset and telling myself that I am good enough for this job, I have worked in greater capacities than I am currently applying for, everything started changing. Even the roles and jobs I started applying to really spoke to the value I was able to render. So overcoming that imposter syndrome, and we face it a lot, and I think it's a battle everyone has to fight and win, right? So overcoming that imposter syndrome, telling myself I'm good enough, telling myself I have what it takes. Because at the end of the day, when you land a Canadian job or when you land a job in this part of the world, you discover that what you were doing in Nigeria required you to do more than you're currently doing, right? So we are good enough. We have what it takes. We're enough. Changing that mindset internally helps you to see yourself in a better place, and then you take on positions, right, that will portray the value you bring to the organization and the team. So those were the specific challenges I faced. Most of them were internal, but I'm sure someone here can also resonate with that as well.
Well, I definitely do resonate because the truth is, if you've not overcome those doubts, those internal questions, that voice that's telling you, you're just a local person, a local
Yeah,
champion. This is a world stage,
yeah,
right? This is big time. Maybe you're not good enough. If you're not able to silence those voices, it impacts even your delivery when you're speaking to someone at an interview. And come
yes,
to think of it, you've done even much more than that person,
yeah,
right? You just happen to be lucky to be the one interviewing you at the moment.
yeah.
But when you're able to silence that voice, when you're able to assure yourself and grow the confidence, the confidence then translates to your outlook. And of course, you're able to impress anybody you're speaking to, you're able to convincingly engage them, right? So that's really a good insight. Now, how do you personally I think you already mentioned that in passing, but I
Yeah.
want you to, because some people probably missed it. So I want you to delve into that a bit. How did you personally navigate the Canadian experience, or you're coming from, you had years of experience yourself, but then Canadian experience.
Okay, so I think this Canadian experience thing, I don't know wherever it came from. Of course, we'll have some organizations that would specifically request or require you to, oh, you must have worked in a Canadian setting before. But even with that, you land into Canada and you have a vision that you want to become a cybersecurity expert or a business analyst, right? I think what you should do is to volunteer somewhere. It's never too little or it's never too much. Look for, let's say for business analysis, there is IIB. Look for some speaking engagement. Look for search on the internet. And remember when I started my story, I said that I was just checking online to see what job roles were available as a business analyst back in Nigeria. And I came up and I saw the internship role. So there are always internships available, even though they are not going to be paying you as much as you would have wanted. But it's just a price you have to pay. It's just a price you have to pay. So if you are particular about getting that Canadian experience, get on internships, so volunteer in organization. Even in your current role, you can talk to your manager, even if you might not be wearing the cap of a business analyst or a cybersecurity expert or any field in tech industry. Just volunteer, ask your manager. We sometimes don't get the answers or we don't get the experience we require or we want because we don't ask questions. I've come to understand that asking questions pay. What would cost you talking to your manager to say, oh, I have this I have this vision or I have this, yeah, depending on the relationship you have with your manager, right? But if there is any, or you can even just search on your present company's career, right? Volunteer, do something. That's the most important thing. So that when you're actually looking for the job or the role, you have something, even if it's for 3 months, 2 months, it's something. And I would always say there is a huge difference between someone who has actually worked or done the job and someone who is just coming with a theoretical experience. So I think that's how you can personally navigate the Canadian experience or do. And on top of that, I personally did not what's the word now? I didn't have that experience while I was looking for jobs, right? I had nobody request for Canadian experience from me. But what I did was to passionately tell my story as a business analyst. I think maybe that's why nobody asked me for Canadian experience, because I was passionately talking about business analysis, the tools I've used, my soft skills, the management and everything. So yeah, get internships, get volunteering roles, and that will help you to cover that gap. Get on boot camps. Boot camps are also awesome ways to really have the exposure that you require in Canada. So I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. So, from what you said, it's really first about how you present yourself that makes them start asking you funny
Yes,
questions in terms of, have you worked in Canada before?
yes,
And from the look of things, this is quite becoming a thing of the past where, I think there are now policies that outrightly prevent employers from stating that you need to have worked in Canadian setting or anything of sort. But while that can continue to be a bias, right, an individual at an individual level, uh, there are opportunities to volunteer within within any space that you find yourself. Could be a local community in Canada, or it could be with an employer, or anywhere you find the opportunity to volunteer as a business analyst or as a tech support person or even cybersecurity, opt for it, right? And of course, the truth is, even though you're not getting paid, and I know we all have bills to pay, but please look at the long term. All right. Look at the long term. It's not just about today. It's not just about this first 6 months. It's going to serve you for a long term. So let that always be at the back of your mind. But then we're talking about landing your first role in Canada or getting jobs there in Canada. From a hiring manager's perspective, right? What actually matters when you're scanning the candidate's resume, because that's the first contact a hiring manager would have with the candidate. So when they go through that resume, what exactly are they looking for?
Okay, and this comes from a personal experience, right? A couple of weeks ago, I saw a very awesome role, job vacancy in, I think it was in America. And I there's this thing I do. I don't just randomly apply to roles. I try to go to the company on LinkedIn, check the people, and then I see if we have anything in common, right? We could have gone to the same school, we could have just something random. So I saw someone that we went to the same school back in the UK, different years, and then I sent him a message and I said, oh, I think it was a senior program manager or a high level, like hiring manager status. So I sent him a message. I said, oh, hi, nice to meet you. I said that we went to the same school. I would like to apply for this role. Is there anything you would suggest or with my resume? So I sent my resume and I sent the job application link to him. And then he responded a very detailed analysis of my resume, right? I was impressed, right? I didn't know him from anywhere, right? And then he said that my job titles, my achievements, my tools, the tools I've used, they really speak to the role. So where am I driving at? If someone that I would say who is because he said he's a hiring manager, right? And he would not he also gave me some other information and said, oh, if I were to be hiring for this role, right? It wasn't the one hiring for the role, but like if it was one hiring for the role, he would do this and this. But what caught my attention was in a space of 2, 3, 5 minutes max, he told me what aligned on my resume and what did not, right? And he told me to adjust that and apply for the role. So what am I trying to say? At the first glance, the job titles, the achievements, we're not just speaking duties, we are speaking achievements. We are quantifying the achievements. We're not just saying, oh, I did this, this, and this. No, we're saying I worked in a 13-man team to increase profitability by 30%. We are actually putting the numbers, right? So at that glance, the hiring manager is able to put your resume or you as a person and then the role is trying to fit. If it doesn't fit immediately, if you can't see the job title that they're trying to get on your resume, which I think sometimes is ridiculous, right? But if you can't see all of that, you would probably not get picked, right? Are there keywords like tools? They're asking for ERP systems. Do you have those systems on your resume? Do you have agile methodologies? Do you have Scrum? Do you have they requested for a certified business analyst? Are you certified? So looking at your resume at a glance, how relevant are you to the role? That's where I'm going to. If you're not relevant to the role, they trade out, right? So is your resume clear? Is it concise? Is it presentable? I see a lot of resumes where it keeps going on and on, 3, 4 pages. I think the maximum number of pages your resume should have should not be more than 2. Anything more than 2, you're already telling a lot of stories. Even though you've had worked in 15 different organizations, pick the most relevant and speak to your story. You have the interview to tell your story. Pick the most relevant and you can go from there, right? So like I said also, don't just talk about duties, talk about impact, talk about achievements, talk about what you did, right? And we want to also see probably a career progression. So you've been a business analyst since 2016 and you're still a business analyst. What exactly are you doing as an analyst? What are you analyzing for the past almost 10 years, right? So there has to be a progression. So all these silent points really just differentiate someone that would really proceed to the interview stage and someone that would just say, no, this person is not a fit.
Ah, that's really interesting. And I think we all can relate to it in a way. So we've all been hiring managers in our own capacity at one point or the other. So imagine you needed someone to fix your car.
Mm.
You drive a Mercedes and you went to somebody to a dealership or a repair shop. And this person listed, they have a list above of the kind of cars they work on. And Mercedes is not on that list. So
Yeah,
did you give them your car? No. So
yeah.
that's where the fit, that fit is really important for the hiring manager. They look
Mhm.
at what you said you've done. Does it correlate with what they need you to do in this role? If
Yeah.
the answer is yes, then of course they would love to speak more with you. If the answer is no, then au revoir, right?
Yeah.
So that's really important, and I love that you really stress that point. For everyone that's listening to this, does your resume resonate with what the hiring manager is looking for? Put yourself in the shoes of the hiring manager. Are you speaking to what they need on that role? And if you've done it before, can you quantify your achievements? We're not just looking for stories. We want people who have actually done these things and have excelled at it. And I think that is the core purpose of the resume. Of course, the other things in terms of, like you mentioned, the readability of it, using keywords, beating the ATS, we hope that those things have already been stressed here and there. So don't skip the details in there. But ultimately, your resume should say categorically, convincingly, that you are done what you're being asked to do, or what you'll be asked to do on this role, and these are the results you got when you did it, or in a similar context. That's really good. So then, well, that leads us to the next question in terms of the red flags or signals that I see people that typically lead to rejection. But before you answer the question, I just want to remind our audience that, you have the opportunity to ask your questions, right? That maybe we're not speaking to them directly. So you have questions to ask, so you have questions, you need answers to, your pivoting into tech, or you're already on your tech journey and some things are just not clear enough to you anymore. You're not getting the kind of results you want. You have the opportunity to ask your questions. So please use the chat. Just drop your question, make sure that your questions are properly, are well detailed, so we really understand what you're asking about. And then we take a moment to put the question across to our speaker. So back to the question, what are the red flags or signals that typically lead to quick rejection from the hiring manager's perspective?
I think I've mentioned that a little bit earlier, but one of the greatest red flag or the greatest signal that make people not to be chosen for the role or the interview, or that leads to quick rejection, is the fact that we don't tailor our resume to the job description. There's a lot of people I mentor, specifically in the field of business analysis. There's this thing I tell them, right? So you're trying to transition into business analysis. What is your value proposition? What are you bringing, right? If you are able to, and career value proposition is just talking about, oh, this is what I'm good at. This is where I'm coming from. These are my excellent soft skills. These are my hard skills. This is my educational background. This is everything that I am that speaks excellently well about me. So when you're applying for that role, does your value proposition speak to that role? And I'm not saying that when you're applying to a role, if the job description has like 10 requirements, you should be able to satisfy the 10 requirements. No, I'm speaking to, does it even have up to 5, right? So if the value that you have does not tally to the job you're applying for, don't bother applying, because it will lead to quick rejection. What am I trying to say? So I'm saying that, oh, I want to apply for a business analysis role in the health industry, or in the health industry. And I have no specific achievement on my resume to speak to that. An hiring manager would just pick up your resume, check, and drop it and move to the next person. So that is a huge red flag that make people rejected on time. And another aspect is just applying for the sake of applying. Oh, let me apply to 100 applications in a day because I just want to apply. And you're not taking your time. It still boils back to really tailoring your resume to suit the job description you're applying for. So take your time. Look for the role or the vacancy that speaks to you, that you're passionate about, because passion is also very important. And then tailor your resume to suit that job description. So that is a red flag for me. Starting from the beginning on a wrong note is a sure way to get rejected very fast.
All right, so it's a numbers game, yes, but you can't just spray your resume all over the place. There's the need for you to tailor your resume, and intention about it, the effort you put into the resume would translate to what the hiring manager sees and, of course, their decisions. So maybe rather than do 100 applications, submit 100 applications in a day, just pick the top 5, top 10, put your really good effort into tailoring and communicating your proposition, like you mentioned, and that gives you really good chances of getting called. But no, let's assume that you've gotten the invite for the interview, right? At the interview, what are the sort of factors that can make or break a candidate's chances?
Oh, right. Yeah. So you've gotten past the resume. Your resume was perfect for the role. You get a call, and then what happens next? A lot of times I find out that people or candidates are focused on landing an interview, which is good, but the effort should not be less than you preparing. The effort of you landing the job through an interview should not be less than what you put when you were um tailoring your resume or doing all of that. So what are the subtle factors that can break or just put you in jeopardy? The first one is your first impression. Your first impression. When do and I would give an example of this. I think 2 years ago, or was it last year? Yeah, it was 2 years ago. I got on the call. This was my first call, right, from a recruiter, right? And I had worked so hard. And that's one thing I will also talk about subsequently. When you're targeting a role, when you're targeting something in your mind, a vision, or you want to land a role in tech, right? Let everything around you speak to that vision. So around that time, I had sticky notes on my in my room where I had five soft skills of a business analyst. I had what I would say if anybody calls me tomorrow. So every day while I was rigorously applying for jobs, I was talking to myself, having that pitch. How do you introduce yourself, Bumi? How do you introduce yourself? How do you introduce yourself? So I started, my name is Bumi. I have this, I have this. I kept on talking to myself about it. So when that call finally came, I was so prepared that the recruiter asked me, I'm sorry, Bumi, do you train for this role? Like, do you train other people for business analysis? And at that time, I had no clue I would be mentoring a lot of people, right? But because I kept on going, I kept on talking about it every day. When I wake up after praying, I talk about it. When I'm going to bed, I look at the mirror, I check the sticky note, I'm talking. And I said, no, I'm just really passionate about it. And then she laughed. She was like, okay, I'm going to give you a call. I'm going to, when we were done with the whole first call process, she said she was going to reach out to me. And it didn't take 30 minutes. I got the first director call. And that was the only call that I had that got me the job. What am I saying? First impression matters. And I'm not only talking about video interviews or in presence where you go on site. No, I'm talking about the first phone call where you say hello. Are you excited about the role? Are you passionate about the role? And I would like to clarify that if you pick up a phone call with a recruiter and you're not happy or excited, they can tell. So you saying it's just a phone call and you not put as much effort as into it you would can actually jeopardize your journey. So that is a very subtle factor that people tend to ignore. Putting as much effort into preparing into that first call as well as the long interview you'll be doing. Then how do you tell your stories? They ask you a question in the interview process and you're just going on and on. Fine, it's good to be excited, but inside the excitement, are you solving the problem that they're trying to look for? Are you telling your story in a very coordinated manner, which is the STAR approach, the situation, the task, the action you carried out, and then what was the outcome or what was the result? Or are you just saying, oh, I did this, I did that, and nothing can really be your impact is not really felt, right? And the last thing for me is how do you follow up? Do you just end every interview and then you start praying, oh God, please let the interview go well? Courtesy demand that you send an email to appreciate them for their time. Let them know you are excited, you are curious about the role, and that kind of will set in motion a communication channel between yourself and the manager. So there are a lot of other a lot of things, right? But I think getting your first impression matters. How you talk about yourself, right? Let me give you another tiny story about another interview I had, which was a contract role. I got on the call with the director of the project team and then one, I think the hiring manager who was someone I worked with. And then they asked me, Bumi, tell us about yourself. And because, of course, I was so prepared, I spoke and spoke. I wasn't just talking, I was speaking to the in my mind, I was looking at the job description and then I kept talking, right, to show them how I would prefer solutions to whatever they have or problem they're trying to solve. And then when I was done, the hiring manager said, wow, Bumi, I don't have any more questions for you. And in my heart, I knew that, and there's a way you know when an interview is going well and or not, right? So I knew that that interview was going to go well, which I also got the job. So setting the right pace for the interview, first impression, your presence, tell your stories and follow-ups is really, really huge factors that people tend to ignore. Thank you.
Amazing. I think the short way or the recap for this will just be the usual saying, which is practice makes perfect, right? And don't forget, people, that your competition is, there are thousands of people who are looking for the same job you're applying into.
Yep.
So if you don't put your best into preparing for the role, you're already disqualifying yourself by yourself,
Yeah.
right? So you actually need to put in a lot of effort into preparing for the interview as much as you're also applying to these jobs, right? You're
Mhm.
applying for the job, it's just the beginning of it. There is interview phase, which is really the key part of it. So you need to dedicate some time every day preparing for interviews. What are the typical questions to expect and how to answer those questions. I have one last question for you today. And I'm also imploring everybody that's listening, if you have a questions, please put it out there in the chat so we can ask for me to answer your question. It doesn't have to be directly relatable to today's topic, but if it's involves anything about landing a job, about starting up in IT, anything you're facing in your transition journey, or in your just everything in general that relates to career, I'm sure she'd be happy to answer, right? But my last question, because we've had people who have been at this for quite a while, and someone has faced repeated rejections and feels like giving up. What's your message to them?
It's okay, really. It's really okay. A lot of times, I have come to recently understand that it's a process which most times will take it's to just take it's what's the word now? It's a process, right? And at the end of the process, you will get the dream job on the condition that you do not give up, on the condition that you keep pushing, on the condition that you still have the right mentors. And one thing I've come to understand is that having the right mentors or having the right people around you in your career helps a lot of times. I remember when I was trying to transition into tech and it was taking like months and months and months. I had a mentor who I would just call to just rant and just tell him, oh, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, this is not working. And then he would tell me, Bumi, calm down. It's not about you now. You have the skills, you have the experience, you have the certifications. It's just the market. Keep pushing. And it wasn't up to 2 weeks or 3 weeks after that I got a very good job, right? So it's okay. It has happened to the best of the best. People might not go around saying that, oh, before I got this job, it took me 12 months or 18 months or even 2 years or 3 years. People might not go around saying that, but people have passed through this journey. And that brings me to my first point when I started and saying getting a mentor cannot be overemphasized. People that will hold your hand and will just say, Bunmi, just I understand. I've been there, and it's going to be okay, right? People that will push you. So that's what I would tell you. Don't give up. Don't stop pushing. Get the right people around you that would encourage you, and keep building your network. Keep going for events. There is a tech event somewhere in Toronto. Go there. There is a tech event somewhere close to your house. Network with people. You never can tell who you will just be speaking to and will just refer you, and then you get the job seamlessly. So that is my advice for anyone out there. I think you're on mute.
Yes, I was on mute. Thank you very much for that. And of course, that's a message from someone out there who is feeling like giving up, who is wondering, did I make the right decision? The truth is, we've all had our own patches, our own wilderness experience where things are just so pitch black. But like they say, it's darkest before dawn. So don't give up, keep pushing, keep attending those networking events, virtual or on-site, keep submitting your resume, keep skilling up, keep showing up. And I'm sure soon enough, you'll get your breakthrough. Now, if you're here, you're listening to us and you're thinking of starting up a career in tech, or you're already on the journey, you're feeling stuck, and you, of course, like Bunmi has mentioned earlier, there is the need for you to work with mentors and coaches rather than all these try and error efforts. Then this message is for you because I have good news for you. Now, at next, maybe we'll look at pivoting into tech in three options, right? Three perspectives. You could, of course, go the traditional way, get a degree, and you go back to school, get a degree in tech, and of course, you agree with me that takes a lot of money and a lot of time, right? And the second option is you grinding it out by yourself. A lot of people have gone through that path, but it's a path of trials and error. You get overwhelmed quickly. It's as if you're guiding yourself in a journey you've never made before. But imagine you're working with someone who's gone that path. They're able to tell you when to take the steps, which steps to take, and all of that. And you're able to translate your dreams into reality as quickly as possible, right? And over the past few years, we've worked with mentors to come up with what is the best approach into tech. Now, I'll give you an analogy. Imagine you're trying to learn to drive, and someone gives you their car and says, it's the 4-1 right now. Go there and start learning to drive on 4-1. You know this person is trying to kill you. But that's exactly what a lot of people are doing, pivoting into tech. They are targeting highly competitive roles in cybersecurity, specialized roles in project management, program management, cloud computing, DevOps. Those are highly competitive roles. And of course, people have gone that route, but the chance of success is very, very minimal. And we've come up with a better approach, working with mentors and coaches over time, and identified IT support as the best route. And why IT support? The truth is, it gives you it sets a very strong foundation. Of course, it's not high demand, but it's less competitive. And that is really the point right there. You have less competition, okay? And of course, you're setting up a foundation. You're coming from a no tech background. You don't even know how a computer works, right? You don't know how what the software is about. So how do you want to lead people? How do you want to lead a project as a project manager? How do you want to lead building a software project as a project manager? So, but when you take your time to go through the fundamentals, you build a strong foundation in IT support, and that gives you a really good foundation. And within 6 weeks, right, you're able to skill up, learn all the skills necessary to be able to build, to be able to be job ready, and of course, a higher chance of success. So at next, maybe we have a boot camp that is fast coming up, right? And in our boot camp, we have, we're making this promise to you. The first is in terms of experience, okay? So after the boot camp, you're not looking for experience. You already have your Canadian experience through our virtual internship program, right? So you're going to get hands-on experience. You're going to be working on typical job scenario where you're supporting users as an IT support professional, okay? And we're also going to coach you to be job ready, right? We're going to, teach you what questions to expect, both technical and behavioral questions, and how to answer those questions in an interview setting. And of course, based on all the work you're going to be working on, every assignment and task you've been working on in that course of that 6-week program, you're going to also build a professional portfolio that demonstrates your practical skills to your prospective employers. We definitely also going to be working with you to develop an optimized resume that gets you past the 8 years and land you a lot of interviews. But more importantly, we envisage this path as just the starting point, right? IT support is just the beginning. We work with you to develop a personalized 2-year roadmap where you're going to transition into tech through the IT support, but continue to elevate your skills, continue to skill up, get certifications, and position yourself even for more advanced specialization and a better fulfilling career, be it cloud, be it DevOps, be it program management, be it business analysis, cybersecurity, or whatever it is, you can transition or you can grow from IT support into those roles. But I wouldn't fail to also mention that when you are part of our bootcamp program, you also have access to a network of experts, right? Who are going to be working with you through every twist and turn, and they're dedicated to your success. You're also going to be networking with people, with prospective employers, people who can connect you to your next job. So if this sounds like something that is for you and you have some more questions to, you want to find out more about it, you can book a free consultation with any of our coaches and mentors. Just click the link that is in the chat, right? And book a 30-minute consultation and find out more about it. And, in terms of the next steps, right? All right. That wraps it up for today. But before I go, I want to especially thank Bunmi for our time. It's really been amazing. Speaking with you, learning so much about you. I've personally, had so much insights to take away, and I believe everybody on this call as well. I can see stuff about how they've really been impacted. So if this is really helps you, we're continuing in this series. Don't forget, it's a 6-week series. Started last weekend. Today is the second in the series. So next weekend, Saturday, 11 a.m. EST, we're going to have somebody so prominent, so amazing join us in person of Oluwase Akishesin. He's a senior manager at RBC, where he leads a team of cybersecurity experts and risk managers, right? He's going to be talking to us about, not just landing your job, but getting promoted on your job faster, right? This is someone who has been promoted by, himself, and he's going to tell us the secrets. And of course, even if you don't have your job today, you still need to look, you need to plan ahead. So ensure you don't miss next week's session. And of course, you can send the registration link across to your friends, your network. Let people come up and learn this thing. And sure, right? So you get to start, Get Unblocked next maybe.ca, and just share that link with everybody with you. If you already registered for this one, I'm sure you'll get the reminder for next week. So just save the date. Thank you all for your time. It's really been wonderful. All, and I'm bidding you goodbye. Have a lovely weekend. See you next week. Bye, everyone.